Hey everybody, Dr. Chris here. Thanks for joining me as usual. So super excited about this talk. I got some props, all right? So we're really taking this to the next level here. We're talking about something that people get very emotional about today, okay? Diet sodas, all right? Non-nutritive sweeteners, if you want to use a gentle term. Artificial sweeteners, if you want to sound a little more techie and negative. But everyone's got someone in the family who says, hey, put down that diet soda, it's going to give you cancer, right? Or other people in the family who, it's like they have it hooked up to an IV and they're infusing it directly to their veins or drinking it all the time, okay? But what do we know about this? Because non-nutritive sweeteners really do have a lot to do with weight management, and sadly, like I always say, this stuff is complicated. Sadly, we don't have a lot of information, a lot of good data saying definitively it's good or it's bad or neutral, okay? So I'll walk you through what we do have. The punchline is that on a spectrum of water to sugar-sweetened beverages, I think for now, non-nutritive sweeteners are somewhere in the middle, maybe a little bit more towards the sugar-sweetened beverage side when we're thinking about overall health. Okay, and then at the end I'll give you a few pointers, something that you can do to kind of help yourself if you have a sugar-sweetened beverage issue or a diet soda or other diet product issue that we can work on. Okay, so this beam in the back is going to be a spectrum here. Okay, like I said, water's on one side, absolutely. Okay, water's been shown over and over again to be beneficial for health. Stay hydrated, helps with body function. So if you're gonna have something to drink some water. I always tell people, don't drink your calories. All right, it's really easy to drink a lot of calories really quickly as opposed to chewing the food, eating it, having it digest. Okay, so we'll start with water. And then other things I have here, all right, that we'll put on the spectrum as we go through the talk here. Sports drinks, right? Sugar-sweetened beverage. Regular soda, sugar-sweetened beverage. And then things like honey, maple syrup, agave nectar, that sort of stuff. So we'll kind of lay these out as we go along. And then the visual for the non-nutritive sweeteners are some of these packets, okay? Things like aspartame, sucralose, Truvia, stevia, monk fruit, those sorts of things, okay? So, like I said from the beginning, sugar-sweetened beverages are on the opposite end. So I'm going to start off by putting that way over here, okay? So good, bad, and we'll see where things fall in between, okay? So what do some of the studies say here? Okay, so I'm not going to get into my whole talk about studies and the quality of it, right? I mean, what I care about is high quality studies that are reliable. So randomized controlled trials, meta-analyses that combine a bunch of studies to increase the power and reliability. I'm not talking about a single pilot study with 5 people that someone on social media can quote and say, buy my product because this one study showed that it, decreased body weight by 1 ounce. Okay, I'm talking about big time studies. So with non-nutritive sweeteners, as compared to water intake, there was a meta-analysis, again looking at many studies to increase the power and reliability and for the results. People who drink non-nutritive sweeteners or people who drink water, okay, compared the two groups. And what they found, no difference in weight, okay? No difference at all in weight with the exception of kids who are males, okay? I don't know why that is, but for adults and everyone else, there was no difference, okay? The other thing they looked at was that it didn't increase calorie intake. The people who were drinking the diet sodas didn't eat more, okay? Because that's one thing you'll commonly hear, oh, diet sodas are bad because you eat a whole pizza and have your diet soda as opposed to eating half a pizza and having a regular soda, okay? So at least in this big combination of studies that we have on the topic, that didn't happen. Okay. Now another study, a randomized controlled study, went for a year, so that's a fairly long time, a year comparing people who drink water and people who had non-nutritive sweeteners, okay, ready, actually showed that the diet soda intake people had lower weight. So why that is, who knows, all sorts of theories you can hypothesize. But the point is that it didn't show that diet sodas were worse than water, specifically related to weight and calorie intake. Okay, I'm gonna back up 1 second. When we talk about the general population in the United States, someone who is, we'll say, healthy weight, they don't have excess unhealthy weight, 11% of them drink soda regularly, okay? So that's a fair amount. You know this stuff is complicated. We talked about it, and there's all sorts of things that go into weight, and nutrition is just one part of it. So, I mean, it's an important part, but you can have a healthy weight and still drink soda. Now, you gotta have, drink regular soda, sugar sweetened soda. Everything else has got to be spot on. You got to be genetically predisposed probably to be able to handle it. So I do not encourage anyone to drink sugar sweetened beverages. In fact, I think you should get rid of them altogether. But statistically, some people can get away with it, okay? Now, 22% of people who have excess weight drink soda, sugar sweetened beverages, okay? So there's a one-to-one direct relationship there. The more sugar sweetened beverages you have, the more likely you are to have weight issues. The more weight issues you have, the more likely you are to drink sugar sweetened beverages. Now, people who have excess weight also drink more diet sodas and have more calories altogether. So it's some combination of all those things, okay? So what evidence do we have that non-nutritive sweeteners are unhealthy for you? Okay, lots of theories here. Okay, do an internet search for diet soda, artificial sweetener, and microbiome. Okay, so that you'll find all sorts of stuff on. Oh, the non-nutritive sweetener upsets your microbiome. All right. The scientific studies for that are not good at all. Not that they're weak, okay? The level of evidence is weak. They're either small studies or not shown in humans. So anyway, to say that that's the case is just, we can't reliably do that, okay? So anyone who says differently at this point when I'm doing this talk probably needs to get fact check on that one, okay? Other things, hormone changes. Check out my hormone series if you haven't done that yet. Because hormones, gut hormones, brain hormones, definitely very critically important to weight management. And the theory is that if you drink a diet soda or a non-nutritive sweetener, that can affect these hormone levels, okay? Studies looking at insulin level, looking at cortisol, looking at CCK, looking at GLP-1, all these hunger and metabolism hormones. Non-nutritive sweeteners do not affect them, okay? Taste is another thing. You say, oh, well, it tastes sweet, and so that's going to make me crave something sweet later on. Now, I've had people tell me absolutely that happens to them as an individual, but when you look at the studies, again, the evidence is weak, but it has not been shown to be the case. Okay, now there are individuals, especially people with blood sugar issues to begin with, diabetes, where diet products can affect their blood sugar. So I'm not talking about people with medical issues like that. That's a different case. Look at yourself, you're checking your blood sugars, whatever. But this is more for the general population. Okay, so the summary of that section was that non-nutritive sweeteners are either equal to water for weight management, maybe a little bit better, and then the theories as to why non-nutritive sweeteners are detrimental, really weak evidence for that. Okay, so another thing I want to talk about is how much you're consuming. All right, so if you have one of those packets that I showed you, one of those packets of non-nutritive sweeteners in your coffee, okay, that's one thing. An average soda, the diet soda, has something like 14 of those packets. All right, so is it maybe a factor of how much is in there? Okay, so one hot tip here that I've seen people do is if you're doing diet drinks or sugar sweetened beverages, sweeten it yourself a little bit to kind of taper yourself off of it if that's something you want to do. If you have some unsweetened tea and put just a drop of honey in it, or I've seen people do blueberries, some kind of fruit to get a little bit of sweetness in there, that's probably a lot better than having 14 times as much as you would if you bought it out of the vending machine. Okay, another tip is say, okay, you can have as much diet soda as you want, but you got to drink an equal amount of water first. So if you're going to have a can of diet soda, you got to have a glass of water first, okay? It's going to fill you up pretty quickly. You probably won't drink as much diet soda as you go along, all right? Another tip, and this, I've seen this, you maybe have known people who have done this. You say, hey, okay, we're going to get rid of sugar, sweetened beverages in particular. Sugar altogether would be nice, in diet beverages and diet containing things, all right? The non-nutritive sweetener containing things. Say, do it 2 to 4 weeks, okay? After that, you can have it. It'll come back. Don't worry about it. Just 2 to 4 weeks, stick with it. It'll be there waiting for you at the end. A lot of people feel so much better after that either they don't want to go back, or if they do go back, they feel bad, and so they try to avoid it again, all right? So that's a nice little experiment you can do for yourself, okay? So I'm gonna go back to our scale right here, our spectrum, and move around some of these things. Okay, so at the beginning I said this is a sugar sweetened beverage. All right, doesn't matter if it's geared towards athletes. Okay, that goes down here if we're talking about weight, okay? Honey is purported to do all sorts of positive things, right? Good for the immune system, good for wound healing, but guess what? Your body treats it like sugar, all right? So if we're talking about weight, it goes down here. Now I'll tell you, if you're hitting the gym real hard one day and you're doing a lot of muscle damage with weightlifting, and you need some quick acting glucose or quick-acting sugar, quick-acting carbohydrates, sure, some honey might be fine. I mean, I do a tablespoon or two of honey around an exercise session, but if it's a day when I'm off not doing anything, stay away from it. I don't need that slug of sugar, that slug of insulin along with it, okay? And then other things similar to this, agave nectar, okay? The bottle will be pretty, it'll look all organic, it'll say low glycemic index. For weight, no different than regular sugar, okay? Your body treats it the same, it acts the same, releases insulin the same, okay? So I'd stay away from it, okay? Other things, maple syrup's on the list. Anything else that's got sugar in it, it's sugar, okay? So now we got the spectrum, water on one side, got the non-nutritive sweet. I'll scooch them this way a little bit just because we're not exactly sure. But for weight and overall health, not as bad as the sugar sweetened beverages, okay? If you're trying to avoid it, like I said, intense exercise is different. Now, one of the issues, just a quick sideline here, with the sports beverages, that was one of the issues. It was marketed to athletes and people who are active, and so that changed. If you're really sweating and really pushing it for an hour, then you need something like that, some electrolytes and some glucose or some simple carbohydrates. But if you're doing like 30 minutes on the treadmill and you're not really huffing and puffing a whole lot, your heart rate's up a little bit, you don't need that. And that got people into trouble. They were chugging this stuff if they were playing 15 minutes of basketball, all right? You don't need something like that in that situation, okay? So water on one side, sugar sweetened beverages on the other side, and then the non-nutritive sweeteners somewhere in between, all right? Now, this stuff is actively being studied right now. This might go the way of trans fat. You remember trans fat? A couple decades ago, it was actually being pushed into the food industry. And then we realized, hey, stuff is giving people heart attacks. It's no good for cardiovascular health. Now it's illegal. You can't even find it in food. All right. So maybe this will go that way eventually, but we just don't have studies to say it. So we don't have enough data at this time, but things are changing. What we have is what I just relayed to you. Okay. So in general, I say, hey, if you're doing sugar sweetened beverages, change to diet. If you're doing diet, get to water. If you can do water to begin with, that's going to be the best thing, okay? So to summarize, water's the best, sugar sweetened beverages the worst, non-nutritive sweeteners probably somewhere in between, but we're not exactly sure at this point. The evidence so far suggests that they're not as evil as everyone makes them out to be. But do they have any benefit? Maybe, maybe not. Again, I don't encourage people to start it if they're not already using it. And then a few tips that I gave you on how to get off of sugar sweetened beverages. Cold turkey for 2 to 4 weeks, knowing that you can get back to it afterwards if you want to, which you won't want to, or diluting it by having a glass of water first and then the regular soda or then the diet soda. And so a couple different options there. All right, so thanks for listening to me. You have any questions, comments, let me know. Check out the hormone series or some of the other talks to figure out more about my feelings on health, nutrition, weight management, all that stuff. All right, Dr. Chris, we'll talk to you next time.
Be sure to schedule your free 30-minute initial phone consultation by sending me an email or by visiting our website at refinedwellnessconsulting.com.